Welcome back to the Creating One podcast. I'm not a fan of Jada. Long before any one character scrubbed the scales from their eyes to see the level of gaslight she implores on Will, I stood in my truth. I'm still standing in it. I am a fan of Will, a day one, but I felt his behavior at the Oscars was out of pocket and untimely. It was my belief that he should have rose above it and applied a more intelligent reaction. I wasn't a fan that night. It blighted his win, singed his flowers. Comedians, I suppose, are the only ones who get to gaslight others and it be called a job. Okay. Well, I'm not a fan of bullies, and it gives me pause that comedians are granted the creative license to set fire to a room and choose who gets fireproofed. I used to have a lot of regard for comedians. I gave them a wide berth. They focused on global and personal issues. They were mostly self-effacing. They poked fun at themselves. They didn't drill and target specific people over and over again. I gave them room to express their jokes. I even defended many when their toes touched the line, as long as they pivoted before crossing it. But when someone habitually crosses it, makes it difficult to summon sympathy, that's a real tearjerker for me. I've been silent on this. I grew up when boys and men solved their disagreements differently. They drilled down on the squishy part, called fighting words when they were on the ropes, talked smack about each other's mothers, sisters, wives, or girlfriends, the dozens, aka your mama jokes. It may have escalated to a punch. Blood may have been drawn, but they rubbed dirt on it and they moved on. They boxed it out. They paid for the property damage, apologized, bought the next round. It was never really about the women. It was about hitting you in the soft parts to get the reaction they knew would cause blows. Throw a stone, hide your hands type of behavior. But that is called gaslighting. The culture of men I see who accept Will as a bully, but not the attack on Jada by Chris. Who are you? And what bowl did you fall from? Rock always played to a higher consciousness because he was what I called an intelligent comedian. He had global conscience. He infused it creatively and made understandable, broad issues that strangle the minds of lesser intellects. He made complex issues funny. I empathized with him in that moment, but Jada wasn't nominated. Will was. Every joke he told was about the nominees, not their wives. But I see now his issues are bigger than Will and Jada. He's crippled emotionally from a sequence of events in his personal stead. Drilling down on Jada by calling her a bitch recently makes empathy impossible to dial in. His issue is still with Will, but yet he continues to focus on Jada. If Will accepts Jada, who are we to distract ourselves from our own problems with rescue epitaphs on behalf of a rich man who can leave if he wants to? Now I see why so many men felt he didn't go hard enough on Will. I'd rather they simply say he was offensive to women, but I digress. It takes emotional intelligence to rise above, not ignore, but assess. Humble oneself to not knowing, renew the mind, gain new insight, and arrive at self-awareness. I'm not perfect, so who am I to judge others for their imperfect self? No man or woman is perfect, but the absence of perfection is not licensed to mire in self-pity and become the thing you despise. Who wins? Certainly not God. And so just whose side are you on anyway? God is not going to strip Will of his glory and lifetime accolades for slapping Chris. If he does, we are all in trouble. Oscars may sanction him, but let's not act like it's a barrage of bullets or an insurrection on a seat of legislation. In the end, it's back where it all started. Chris Rock cannot seem to keep Jada's name out of his mouth, and my discerning self cannot overlook it, even though she is not without fault, even in quietness. Chris needs to stop talking about Jada. He needs to stop taking his ilk out on her while crying foul when Will defends her. Men defend the women in their life. Well, at least they used to. A bully who gets carried out of the ring is still a bully. If he yells out at the wife of his opponent once again, he's still a bully. Chris's grievous attacks on Jada, a woman who has never engaged him publicly, nary a single word about him, appears to live rent-free in his head. The obsession he holds cannot be ignored. He needs to wonder why that is problematic and then work on getting to the baseline and extracting it. There's a lot of layers to unpack. This is clinical. Yep, I'm the bitch who isn't afraid to say it. He is coming undone by a woman who didn't lay a hand on him, and that should be his concern. Thank you for your fellowship, and I will see you in the next one.